My mom says we have to stay quiet, but she can't get up. He hurt her real bad. Please. A 5-year-old girl, barefoot, soaking wet, bleeding from her feet, stood shaking in front of 12 bikers in a roadside bar. She pulled down her jacket, bruises everywhere, fingerprints burned into her tiny shoulder, a handprint on her neck. She'd walked 40 minutes through the rain with no shoes to find someone, anyone, willing to fight for her mother. Every adult in her life had failed her. Every system had looked away. So she found the most dangerous men in town and begged them to save her. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel and follow Sophie's story to the very end. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. 12 men sat at the back table of a roadside bar called the Iron Pit in Ashford, Kentucky. Tuesday afternoon, 2:07 p.m. Rain hammering the roof so hard you had to raise your voice just to be heard. These weren't businessmen. These weren't church deacons. Every man at that table wore a leather vest with the same patch. Hell's Angels. The kind of men mothers pulled their children away from in parking lots. The kind of men people crossed the street to avoid. The president of this chapter was a man named Bull, 51 years old. A jagged scar ran from his left ear down to his jaw. He got it in Afghanistan, took shrapnel pulling a wounded soldier out of a burning vehicle, came home to a country that gave him a medal and forgot his name. Bull had hands the size of dinner plates, scarred, calloused, hands that had broken bones and been broken in return. But 14 years ago, those same hands had held his baby daughter, Grace. She died of leukemia at age 3. He never talked about it, but every man at that table knew. And every man at that table knew the rule that came from it. You hurt a child, you answered a bull. Sitting beside him was Diesel, 38, brown hair buzzed to the scalp. Used to play football in high school until his knee blew out and his scholarship disappeared with it. He had a 6-year-old daughter named Lily. Her picture was taped inside his vest, right over his heart. He checked it every morning like a prayer. Across the table sat Preacher, 74, the oldest man in the club, white hair pulled back in a ponytail, Vietnam veteran. His voice sounded like someone dragged a cinder block across gravel. He got his name because he read scripture every morning, even though he'd done things no scripture would forgive. Then there was Wire, 33, skinny, quiet, brown hair falling in his eyes. Looked like he belonged in a college library, not a biker bar. But Wire could find anyone, anywhere, with nothing but a phone and a laptop. Shadow, 40, blonde hair, pale blue eyes that didn't blink enough. He was the man they sent when a message needed to be delivered once and never repeated. And Hammer, 29, the youngest, blonde hair, baby face, built like a concrete wall. Joined the club 2 years ago, still proving himself, still carrying anger he hadn't named yet. They were laughing about something. Preacher telling a story about a bar fight in 1987 when the front door slammed open. Cold air hit the room. Rain sprayed across the floor. And then she was there, a little girl, 5 years old, blonde hair soaking wet, plastered to her face. She wore a pink jacket 2 sizes too big. The sleeves hung past her hands. No shoes. Her feet were bare, muddy, bleeding in 2 places from walking on gravel. She was breathing so hard her entire body heaved. Her ribs pushed against the wet fabric of her jacket. Her lips were almost blue. She didn't look at the bartender. She didn't look at the 2 old men playing cards by the window. She ran, barefoot, dripping, shaking, straight through the bar to the back corner. She stopped in front of Bull. Every conversation in the bar died. The jukebox played on, but nobody heard it. Bull set down his bottle. Slowly. He leaned forward. He made his voice as soft as he knew how. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Sophie," barely a whisper. "Sophie Dawson." "Where's your mama, Sophie?" Sophie's hands were trembling so violently she could barely grip the collar of her oversized pink jacket. She pulled it down to the right side. Bull saw it, and every molecule of air left his lungs. Bruises, deep purple, sickly green, yellowed at the edges where older ones were fading underneath newer ones. Fingerprint-shaped marks pressed into her tiny shoulder, like someone had grabbed her and squeezed with everything they had. More bruises along her collarbone. A red mark on her neck, the shape of an adult hand. Diesel stood up so fast his chair hit the floor like a gunshot. Jesus Christ! Hammer's face went white. He gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles popped. Preacher closed his eyes. His lips moved silently. Nobody knew if he was praying or cursing. Probably both. Bull couldn't move. He'd been to war. He'd carried dying men on his back. He'd been shot at, blown up, beaten half to death. But looking at those bruises on a 5-year-old child's body, bruises shaped like a grown man's fingers, something cracked open inside him that he couldn't close. He heard his daughter's name in his head, Grace. He kept his voice steady. It took everything he had. Who did this to you, Sophie? Her bottom lip trembled. Then her whole face collapsed. Tears spilled down her cheeks, mixing with the rain still dripping from her hair. My mom says we have to stay quiet. 8 words. 8 words that hit Bull harder than any bullet he'd ever taken. Your mama told you to stay quiet about this? Sophie nodded. She wiped her nose with the too long sleeve. It didn't help. Everything was wet. She says if we tell anyone, he'll do worse. Her voice cracked and split like thin ice. But last night, he hurt her really bad. She can't get up. I tried to wake her up, but she just kept crying. She kept saying, sorry. She wouldn't stop saying, sorry. Bull felt every man at that table tense up. The rage in the room was physical, like heat rising off an engine block. When you say he, who are you talking about, Sophie? Derek. He lives with us. He's not my daddy. My daddy left when I was a baby. Derek moved in last year. He was nice at first. Her voice dropped to nothing. He's not nice anymore. Where is your mama right now? Pine Creek Trailer Park, the yellow one, number 22. And Derek, where is he? At work, the lumber yard. He gets home at 5. Bull checked his watch. 2:15, less than 3 hours. He looked at Sophie. He pushed himself up from the table, then lowered himself down to one knee so his eyes were level with hers. His knees cracked. Up close, the damage was worse. Dark circles carved under her eyes, cheekbones too sharp for a child her age. Exhaustion layered on top of fear, layered on top of something older and heavier. The look of a child who had learned to carry what no child should carry. Sophie, listen to me. Can you do that? Can you listen real careful? She nodded. You did the right thing coming here, asking for help. You understand that? What you just did, walking in here and telling us, that is the bravest thing anyone has ever done in this bar, and I've been coming here for 20 years. I was really scared. Her voice was tiny. I didn't know where else to go. I don't have shoes. Derek threw my shoes away last week because I left them by the door. Bull's jaw locked. He breathed through his nose, slowly. How far did you walk, Sophie? I don't know. A long time. My feet hurt. You walked all the way here? In the rain? Barefoot? She nodded. Diesel turned away. He put his hand over his mouth. His shoulders rose and fell once. When he turned back, his eyes were red. Bull put his hand on Sophie's shoulder, the one without bruises. Gentle, like placing a hand on a bird. We're gonna go get your mama, and I'm gonna tell you something right now, and I want you to remember it. Nobody is ever gonna hurt you or your mama again. That's not a maybe, that's not a hope, that's a promise. From me to you. Do you understand? Sophie stared at him, at the scar on his face, at the steadiness in his eyes, at something in his expression that told her this man did not make promises he couldn't keep. For the first time since she walked through that door, her breathing slowed. Preacher's rough voice cut through the silence. That kid's got more guts than half the men I served with in Vietnam, and I mean that. She does, Bull said quietly. The bartender, a woman named Josie, mid-50s, built tough, worked this bar for 19 years, came around the counter carrying a glass of milk and a grilled cheese sandwich cut in triangles. She set them in front of Sophie. "Eat, baby. You look like you haven't had a meal in days." Sophie stared at the sandwich. Her stomach growled, loud, so loud that Hammer heard it from 6 feet away and had to look at the ceiling to keep himself together. She picked up a triangle, took a bite, then another. Then she shoved the rest of it in her mouth and grabbed the next piece before she'd finished chewing. She ate like a child who had learned that food could be taken away at any moment. Josie watched. Her hand came up to her chest. She turned to Bull. She didn't say anything out loud. She mouthed one word. "Go." Bull turned to his men. His voice changed. Not louder, lower, tighter. The voice of a man who had commanded soldiers. "Diesel, get the van, the black one, quiet." Diesel was already walking before Bull finished the sentence. "Wire, pull up everything you can find on Pine Creek, number 22. Whoever this Derek is, name, record, warrants, history, everything. I want to know exactly what's waiting for us." Wire had his laptop open. His fingers were already moving. "On it." "Preacher, call Doc Mason. Tell him domestic violence situation. Broken ribs at minimum, probably worse. Tell him to meet us at the pit in 45 minutes. Preacher nodded, pulled out his phone, walked toward the back door where it was quieter. Bull looked at Shadow. He didn't say a word. Shadow nodded once. Bull turned to Hammer. "You stay here with Sophie. Nobody comes in or out of this bar that you don't know. Lock the door behind us. Josie's got the shotgun under the counter. You understand?" Hammer straightened up. "Nobody touches her." "Nobody touches her," Bull repeated. He knelt down in front of Sophie one more time. She had milk on her upper lip. In that moment, she looked exactly her age. 5 years old. A kindergartner. A child who should be drawing pictures and chasing butterflies, not running barefoot through the rain to beg strangers for help. "Sophie, you're going to stay here with Josie and Hammer. They're going to take care of you. Keep the doors locked. Don't open them for anyone you don't recognize. Can you do that for me?" "You're going to get my mama?" "I'm going to get your mama." "What if Derek comes home early?" Bull's eyes changed. The softness didn't leave, but something else moved in behind it. Something hard, something final. "Then we'll handle it." "You promise you'll bring her back?" "I promise." Sophie looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something none of them expected. She reached forward and wrapped her small arms around Bull's neck. Her wet hair pressed against his face. Her tiny fingers gripped his leather vest. Bull froze for just a second. Then his massive arms came up and he held her, carefully, like she was made of glass. "Thank you," she whispered into his neck. Bull's throat closed. He couldn't speak. He just held her for another moment, then gently pulled back. He stood, turned, walked toward the door. Josie came around the bar and sat beside Sophie. She put her arm around the girl. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you a towel and some dry clothes. I think I've got a t-shirt in the back that'll work like a dress on you." Sophie looked up at her. "Do you have socks? My feet are really cold." Josie bit the inside of her cheek. "Yeah, baby, I've got socks." The black van was running when Bull stepped outside. Rain pounded the parking lot. Diesel sat in the driver's seat. Wire was in the back, laptop glowing. Shadow and 2 other members, Ridge and Knox, were already inside. Bull climbed into the passenger seat, pulled the door shut. "Wire, talk to me." Derek Allen Wade, 34, brown hair, 6'1", 225, 2 prior assault charges, 1 pled down, 1 dismissed. 1 domestic violence arrest in 2021. Victim recanted, charges dropped. Did 6 months in county 3 years ago for aggravated assault. Beat a man outside a bar bad enough to put him in the ICU. Currently employed at Ashford Lumber. Been there 9 months. Priors for child abuse? Nothing on record, but that doesn't mean anything. If the mom's been keeping quiet, he's been getting away with it. Exactly. Bull stared through the windshield. Rain streamed down the glass. What about the mother, Megan Dawson? Wire typed. Megan Elaine Dawson, 28, born in Ashford, no criminal record. 1 daughter, Sophie Rose Dawson, age 5. Father listed as Travis Dawson. Divorced 2020. Travis has a last known address in Florida. No contact in 3 years. So she's alone. She's alone. Diesel gripped the steering wheel. A 28-year-old woman and a 5-year-old kid against a guy with assault charges and nobody to help them. How does that happen? It happens every day, Preacher said from the back. He'd finished his call and climbed in quietly. It happens in every town in America. Right now. Tonight. Tomorrow. The system doesn't protect women and children. Never has. That's why we exist. Nobody argued. Drive, Bull said. Diesel pulled out of the parking lot. The van moved through the rain-soaked streets of Ashford, past the Dollar General, past the boarded-up hardware store, past the elementary school where Sophie should have been sitting in a warm classroom instead of running barefoot through the rain. Pine Creek Trailer Park sat on the east edge of town. The sign at the entrance was broken. Half the letters were missing. What remained read, PNECRKTRARPAK. Diesel drove slowly. The road inside was gravel and mud. Trailers lined both sides like crooked teeth. Broken windows, sagging roofs, yards of mud, rusted car parts, and plastic bags caught in chain-link fences. Nobody here called the police. Nobody here asked questions about screaming at night. Everyone heard. Nobody helped. That was the rule. Mind your business. Stay alive. Number 22, the yellow trailer. Except it wasn't yellow anymore. The paint had peeled and faded until it was the color of a bad tooth. 1 window was covered with cardboard and duct tape. The front steps were crooked, one side lower than the other. The gutter hung by a single bracket. Diesel stopped the van. Bull stepped out into the rain, walked up the crooked steps. The wood groaned under his weight. He knocked 3 times. Firm, controlled. Megan, my name is Bull. Your daughter Sophie sent us. We're here to help you. Nothing. Just the sound of rain hitting the metal roof. He knocked again. Megan, I know you're scared. I know you've been told to stay quiet. But your little girl just walked 40 minutes in the rain with no shoes to find someone who would help. She's 5 years old, and she's braver than anyone I've ever met. Don't let that be for nothing. Open the door. Silence. Then a voice, thin, broken, like cracked glass. Go away, please. If he finds out someone was here, he won't. You don't know him. I don't need to know him. I know what he did. To you and to Sophie. And I know it ends today. It doesn't end. It never ends. I've tried. I've called the police. They came once. He was calm. He smiled. He told them I was hysterical. They left. That night he broke 2 of my ribs and told me if I ever called again, he'd kill Sophie in front of me. Bull's hand pressed flat against the door. He closed his eyes for 1 second. Then he opened them. Megan, I am standing on your porch in the rain with 8 men behind me. Every one of us has made a decision today, and that decision is that Derek Wade is never going to touch you or your daughter again. Now I need you to make a decision too. Open this door, let us help you, or stay behind it and wait for him to come home at 5 o'clock. Those are the only 2 choices left. Silence. 10 seconds. 20. The lock clicked. The door opened. Just a crack. One eye looked out, swollen, purple-black, barely open. Then the door opened wider. Megan Dawson stood in the doorway, 28 years old. She looked 45. Blonde hair that might have been beautiful once, now matted and unwashed. Split lip, dried blood on her chin, bruises along her neck, shaped like fingers. She held her left side with both hands. Every breath was a small, sharp gasp. She was wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants. Both had blood on them. She looked at Bull, then past him at the men standing in the rain. Leather vests, patches, scars, tattoos. Who are you people? We're the Hells Angels, and your 5-year-old daughter is the reason we're here. Megan's face crumbled. Not slowly, all at once, like a dam giving way. She walked to your bar? She actually walked there? She's 5. She doesn't even have shoes. He threw her shoes away. Oh God! Oh God, is she okay? Is she safe? She's safe. She's eating a grilled cheese and drinking milk. She's warm. She's dry. She's got people watching over her. Now we need to get you out of here. I can't move. My ribs, I think they're broken. He kicked me. Last night, I was on the floor and he kicked me. Doc Mason pushed past Bull. He'd arrived in his own truck moments before. 62. Former Army combat medic, 3 tours in Iraq, gray beard, steady hands. Ma'am, my name's Doc. I'm going to check your injuries. I need you to tell me where the pain is worst. He knelt beside her, gentle, professional. He'd done this before, too many times. Left side, under my arm. It hurts when I breathe. He lifted her shirt just enough to see. The bruising was severe. Dark purple spreading to black across her entire left rib cage. He pressed. Light. She bit down on her lip. A small cry escaped anyway. 3 broken, minimum, maybe 4. Doc looked at Bull. She needs a hospital. Internal bleeding is a real risk. No, Megan's voice was sudden, sharp. No hospital. They'll ask questions. They'll file a report. Derek has a friend who works dispatch at the sheriff's office. He'll know within an hour. He'll come for us. Bull looked at her. Megan, I need you to hear something. Derek Wade is not going to come for you. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. That part of your life is over. It ended the moment Sophie walked through my door. Megan stared at him. She wanted to believe it. He could see it in her one good eye. The desperate, starving need to believe that someone, anyone, could stop what had been happening to her. How can you promise that? Because I've dealt with men like Derek my whole life. They beat women. They hurt children. They do it because nobody stops them. Because the system looks the other way. Because the people who should protect you don't. That's why we exist. We're the ones who stop them. A tear rolled down her swollen cheek. Then another. My baby walked barefoot in the rain to find you. Yes, she did. She's 5 years old. I know. I told her to stay quiet. I told her if she said anything, Derek would hurt her worse. And she went anyway. She went anyway, because she loves you more than she's afraid of him. Megan broke. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Deep, wrenching sobs that shook her broken ribs and made her cry out in pain, which made her cry harder. Doc wrapped her ribs, gave her pain medication, 2 pills and water. It would take 20 minutes to kick in. Bull made a call. Grace, it's Bull. The voice on the other end belonged to Grace Holden, 58, ran a women's shelter called Haven House in Millfield, 2 towns over. She'd worked with the Hells Angels for 11 years. She was one of 4 people in the world that Bull trusted completely. Talk to me, Grace said. Domestic violence. Bad. A woman and a 5-year-old girl. Multiple broken ribs on the mother. Bruises on the child. They need a safe room, medical care, no paper trail. How soon? 45 minutes. Grace didn't hesitate. I'll have everything ready. Room, food, clean clothes. I'll call Dr. Owens. Thank you. Bull. Yeah, the guy who did this. Being handled. Good. He hung up. Diesel and Preacher helped Megan stand. She gasped, swayed, gripped Diesel's arm with both hands. Take it slow, Doc said. One step at a time. They walked her to the van. Every step was pain. She didn't complain, not once. Bull walked through the trailer one last time. The state of it turned his stomach. Holes punched in the walls, broken bottles, a bedroom with nothing but a mattress on the floor and a thin blanket. A stuffed bear with one eye sitting on the pillow. Sophie's room. Bull picked up the bear. Then he saw something on a small table in the living room. A framed photograph. Megan and Sophie at a county fair, both smiling. Sophie had cotton candy on her face. She looked maybe 3 in the photo. Before Derek. Before everything went wrong. He tucked the photo inside his vest, grabbed the bear, walked out. At the Iron Pit, Sophie was sitting at the bar on a stool that was too tall for her. Josie had found her a dry t-shirt. It hung to her knees like a dress. She had thick wool socks on her feet. A second grilled cheese sat half-eaten on a plate. When the van pulled up, Sophie slid off the stool and ran. Hammer opened the door for her. She saw her mother in the back seat, bruised, wrapped in bandages, barely able to sit up. Mama! Sophie climbed in. She threw her arms around Megan, then pulled back fast when her mother cried out. Sorry, I'm sorry. No, baby, come here. Megan pulled her daughter close with one arm, the arm that didn't hurt. Come here. Sophie buried her face in her mother's chest. Megan pressed her lips against the top of Sophie's wet hair. You walked all that way? In the rain? I had to, Mama. You couldn't get up. Baby, you don't have shoes. I know. My feet are okay. Josie gave me socks. Megan closed her eyes. Tears streamed from under her swollen lid. I'm so sorry, Sophie. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry, Mama. We're going somewhere safe, Bull promised. Megan looked at Bull in the front seat. He was holding Sophie's one-eyed bear. Is that Biscuit? Found him on her pillow. He handed the bear back to Sophie. She grabbed it with one hand and pressed it against her chest without letting go of her mother. Bull nodded to Diesel. Drive. The van pulled out. Behind them, 2 motorcycles roared to life. Ridge and Knox. Following at distance, watching the road. Bull stared straight ahead. His phone buzzed. A text from Wire. Derek Wade clocked out of Ashford Lumber early. Left at 3:45. He's heading home now. Bull checked the clock on the dashboard. 3:52 p.m. They were 8 minutes ahead of a man who was about to walk into an empty trailer and realize his punching bags were gone. Bull's hand tightened on his phone. He typed back one word. Good. The van hit a pothole and Megan cried out. Sophie grabbed her mother's hand and squeezed it. I'm here, Mama. I'm right here. Megan's breathing was shallow, quick. The pain medication Doc had given her was starting to work, but every bump in the road sent a jolt through her broken ribs that no pill could touch. She kept her eyes closed. Sophie kept hers wide open, watching, guarding, the way she'd learned to do. Bull read Wire's text one more time. Derek Wade clocked out early, 3:45, heading home. He turned to Diesel. How far are we from the cabin? 22 minutes, maybe 20 if I push it. Push it. Diesel pressed the accelerator. The van surged forward on the wet 2-lane road. Behind them, Ridge and Knox on their motorcycles adjusted speed to match. Bull's phone buzzed again. Wire. His truck just turned onto Route 9, heading toward Pine Creek. Bull did the math. Derek would reach the trailer in roughly 12 minutes. He'd walk in, find it empty, find Megan gone, find Sophie gone, and then he'd do one of 2 things, panic or rage. Men like Derek Wade didn't panic, they raged. He's going to lose his mind when he sees that empty trailer, Preacher said from the back. He'd been reading Bull's face. Preacher always could. Good, Bull said. He's going to start calling people, looking, driving around. I know. You want to deal with him today or let him stew? Bull was quiet for a moment, then he said, Today. We finish this today. I don't want Megan or Sophie spending one night wondering if he's coming. Then we drop them safe and we go back. That's exactly what we do. Sophie's voice came from the back seat, small but clear. Is Derek going to find us? Bull turned around. Sophie was looking at him with those green eyes, steady, not crying, just asking a question the way a 5-year-old asks if it's going to rain. Like the answer actually matters because she needs to know whether to be afraid. No, Bull said. He's not. He always finds Mama. She tried to leave once before. He found her at the bus station. He dragged her back by her hair. I watched from the window. Every man in the van went still. Megan's eyes open. Sophie, don't. It's true, Mama. I saw it. Megan's face crumpled. She pressed her lips together. Couldn't speak. Bull held Sophie's gaze. That was before you found us. Nobody's dragging your mama anywhere. Not today, not ever. I need you to trust me on that. Sophie studied his face. Then she nodded. One nod, firm, like she'd made a decision to believe him, and that decision was final. Doc Mason, sitting beside Megan, checked her pulse. His face tightened. Her heart rate's up. She needs rest, real rest. In a bed, soon. 15 minutes, Diesel said. Doc looked at Megan. Stay as still as you can. Breathe slow. Count to 4 in. Count to 4 out. It hurts to breathe. I know. Do it anyway. Slow as you can. Megan tried. Sophie counted with her. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now out. 1, 2, 3, 4. A 5-year-old girl coaching her broken mother through breathing exercises in the back of a van driven by bikers through the rain in rural Kentucky. That's what the world had come to for these two. Diesel's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His jaw tightened. It's my wife. Answer it, Bull said. Diesel hit speaker. Hey, babe. Where are you? Lily's asking when you'll be home. I'm handling something with the club. Might be late tonight. Silence on the line. Then his wife's voice, quieter. Is it a bad one? Diesel looked in the rearview mirror at Sophie holding her mother's hand. At the bruises visible even in the dim light of the van. Yeah, it's a bad one. Be careful. Always. Diesel. Yeah. Come home. I will. He hung up. His hands stayed on the phone for a moment. Then he put both hands back on the wheel and drove faster. They reached Haven House at 4:18 p.m. Grace Holden was standing outside the cabin when the van pulled up. She was a short woman, sturdy, gray hair cut practical and short. She wore no makeup. Her face carried the kind of lines that come from years of carrying other people's pain. She opened the van door and looked at Megan. Her expression didn't change. She'd seen this before, hundreds of times. But her voice was warm. Come on, sweetheart, I've got you. Let's get you inside. Diesel and Preacher helped Megan out of the van. Grace took over. One arm around Megan's waist, careful of the ribs, guiding her toward the cabin. Megan stopped walking, turned back to Bull. My daughter. Right behind you. Sophie climbed out of the van. Biscuit in one hand. She looked at the cabin. Then she looked at Grace. Are you the safe lady? Grace knelt down, eye level. I'm Grace, and yes, baby, this is the safe place. Nobody can find you here, I promise. Everybody keeps promising. Grace didn't flinch. I know, and I know that's hard to believe when people have let you down. But this cabin doesn't have an address. It's not on any map. There's no mailbox, no number. The only people who know it exists are the people standing right here. Can you give us a chance to prove it? Sophie looked at her for a long moment. Then she walked past Grace, into the cabin, straight to wherever her mother had gone. Grace stood up, looked at Bull. 5 years old, she said. And she talks like she's been to war. She has. What are you going to do about the boyfriend? We're going back. Bull. I know what you're going to say. I'm going to say it anyway. Don't do anything that puts you behind bars. Those two need you free. That little girl looked at you like you're the first person who's ever kept a promise in her entire life. Don't become the next person who lets her down. Bull looked at the cabin. Through the window, he could see Sophie climbing onto the bed next to her mother, pulling the blanket up, tucking Biscuit between them. I'll be smart, he said. You'd better be. Dr. Patricia Owens arrived 11 minutes later, 62, retired ER physician, silver hair, steady hands. She carried a medical bag and walked with the purpose of someone who'd spent 30 years making fast decisions under pressure. She examined Megan in the bedroom. Sophie refused to leave, sat in a chair beside the bed, and watched every move the doctor made. Can you fix her? Sophie asked. Dr. Owens looked at her. Your mama has 3 broken ribs and a fracture in her cheekbone. She has a lot of bruising. It's going to hurt for a while, but with rest and care, she's going to heal. How long? 6 to 8 weeks for the ribs. Her face will heal faster. What about the inside parts? Sometimes when Derek hurts her, she bleeds from places you can't see. Dr. Owens' hand froze for just a second. Then she continued her examination. She pressed gently on Megan's abdomen, checked for swelling, checked for rigidity. I'm going to make sure nothing inside is damaged. That's why I'm here. Sophie nodded, satisfied, not because she trusted easily, but because she'd learned to evaluate adults by what they did, not what they said. And this woman was doing something that counted. Dr. Owens finished her exam, stepped into the living room where Bull and the others waited. 3 confirmed rib fractures. Hairline fracture in the left zygomatic bone. That's the cheekbone. Multiple contusions across her torso, arms, and neck. Signs of strangulation, petechia in her eyes. No signs of internal bleeding at this time, but I want to recheck in 12 hours. She going to be okay? Bull asked. Physically, yes. With time. Dr. Owens paused. The child, Sophie. She has bruises consistent with being grabbed and thrown. The handprint on her neck is from an adult male. Based on the coloring, I'd estimate that injury is 4 to 5 days old. He choked a 5-year-old, Diesel said. His voice was flat, empty, the way a voice sounds right before something inside a man detonates. The bruising pattern on her shoulders suggests she was gripped and slammed against a hard surface. A wall, most likely. Nobody spoke. The room was silent except for the rain on the roof and the fire crackling in the fireplace. Hammer stood by the window. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from something else entirely. I need to document everything, Dr. Owen said. Photographs, medical notes. If this goes to court, it's not going to court, Bull said. Dr. Owens looked at him. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'll document it anyway. She went back to the bedroom. Bull turned to his men. Wire, where is Derek right now? Wire checked his phone. He'd set up a tracking alert on Derek's truck. Don't ask how. He's at Pine Creek. He's been at the trailer for 26 minutes. He just left, heading south on Route 9. Where's he going? If he's heading south, there's only 3 places. The gas station, the liquor store, or Ray's bar. He's going to drink, Preacher said. Then he's going to get angry. Then he's going to start looking. Let him look, Bull said. He's not going to find anything, but I want us back at that trailer before he gets home tonight. When he walks through that door, we're going to be waiting. What if he doesn't come back tonight? Shadow asked. He'll come back. Men like Derek always come back. That trailer is his territory, his control. He'll drink. He'll call everyone he knows. Nobody will have answers. And then he'll go home because he doesn't know what else to do. Bull looked at each man. Diesel, Preacher, Shadow, Hammer, you're with me. Wire, you stay here. Keep monitoring his location. Ridge and Knox, Perimeter. Nobody comes down that dirt road without us knowing. What about me? Doc asked. You stay with Megan. If anything changes, anything at all, you call me. Doc nodded. Bull walked to the bedroom door. It was open a crack. Inside, Megan was sleeping. The pain medication had finally pulled her under. Sophie sat in the chair beside the bed, wide awake, holding her mother's hand. Bull pushed the door open gently. Sophie looked up. I have to go, he said, but I'm coming back. Where are you going? He hesitated. I'm going to make sure Derek understands that he needs to leave and never come back. What if he doesn't listen? He'll listen. Sophie looked at him with those eyes that had seen too much for 5 years on this earth. Derek doesn't listen to words. He only understands when people are bigger than him. Bull knelt down. Sophie, there are 12 men with me. Every one of them is bigger than Derek. Not just in size, in will, in purpose. He's one man who hurts people because he's weak. We're 12 men who protect people because that's what we chose to do. He's going to listen because he's going to realize for the first time in his life that he's not the most dangerous person in the room. Sophie considered this. Then she said, Will you hurt him? Bull paused. He could lie. She was 5. She wouldn't know the difference. But something about the way she looked at him told him she would. I'm going to make sure he never comes near you or your mama again. Whatever that takes. Sophie nodded slowly. Good. One word from a 5-year-old that carried more weight than anything Bull had heard in years. He stood, walked out, closed the door gently behind him. Grace was in the kitchen making soup. She looked up when Bull passed through. She's going to need therapy, Grace said. Real therapy, not once a month at a free clinic. Real, consistent, professional help. A child who's experienced this level of trauma. I know. Do you? Because the physical part heals. The inside part doesn't, not without help. She's already showing signs of hypervigilance, parentification. She's managing her mother's emotions. She's evaluating adults for threats. She's 5 years old and she's functioning like a combat veteran. I said I know. Grace set down the ladle. I've been doing this for 23 years, Bull. I've seen hundreds of kids come through shelters. The ones who get help early, they make it. They grow up. They have lives. The ones who don't, she stopped. You get that girl a therapist, a good one, within the week. I will. Promise me. I promise. Now go deal with Derek Wade and come back in one piece. The van pulled up 2 trailers down from number 22 at 6:47 p.m. Dark now. The rain had stopped, but the air was cold and wet. Bull sat in the passenger seat. Diesel drove. Preacher, Shadow, and Hammer in the back. Wire's voice came through on speakerphone. Derek's at Ray's bar. Been there for 2 hours. He's called Megan's phone 14 times. No answer. He called Pine Creek Trailer Park Management. Asked if they'd seen Megan leave. They said no. He called 2 numbers I can't identify yet. Probably friends. Is he still drinking? Bull asked. He's been there 2 hours. What do you think? Good. Drunk is sloppy. Sloppy is easy. He just paid his tab. He's leaving. How long until he's back? Ray's is 8 minutes from Pine Creek. Bull checked the time. 6:49 p.m. He'll be here by 7. They waited. The minutes moved slow. Nobody talked. Hammer kept cracking his knuckles until Preacher put a hand on his arm and shook his head once. Hammer stopped. At 6:56, headlights appeared at the end of the road. Dirty white truck. Dented front bumper. Loud exhaust. Swerving slightly. That's him, Diesel said. Derek's truck pulled into the driveway. He sat there for a full minute, engine running. Then he killed it. Climbed out, stumbled, caught himself on the truck bed. Grabbed something from behind the seat. A baseball bat. He's carrying, Shadow said. I see it, Bull replied. Derek walked to the front door, kicked it open, went inside. 30 seconds later, they heard it. A roar. primal, furious. Something inside the trailer crashed. Glass shattered. Another crash. He was destroying the place. Now? Hammer asked. Now. 5 men walked through the dark toward the yellow trailer. Their boots made no sound on the wet gravel. Shadow moved left. Hammer moved right. Preacher stayed back, watching the street. Bull walked up the front steps. Diesel beside him. The door was hanging open. Derek was inside, breathing hard, bat in his hand, the trailer torn apart around him. He'd flipped the couch, broken the TV, smashed the table where the framed photo used to sit. He spun when he heard the steps creak. Bull stood in the doorway. Behind him, the shapes of men in the darkness. Derek's eyes were wild, red, drunk. A vein pulsed in his forehead. "Where are they?" His voice was raw. "Where's my family?" "They're not your family, Derek." "The hell they're not. That's my house, my woman, my kid." "Sophie's not your kid, and Megan's not your woman. You don't own people." Derek raised the bat. "I'm going to ask you one more time, where are they?" Bull didn't move, didn't blink. "Put the bat down." "Or what?" Shadow stepped out of the darkness to Derek's left. He hadn't made a sound. Derek spun toward him. In that half-second of distraction, Diesel moved. Fast. His hand closed around the bat just below Derek's grip. He twisted it. One sharp motion. Derek yelped. The bat was in Diesel's hand. Diesel tossed it behind him into the yard. Derek stumbled back. For the first time, his eyes showed what was underneath the rage. Fear. Pure animal fear. "You've been beating Megan Dawson for a year," Bull said. His voice was steady, conversational, like he was ordering coffee. "You've broken her ribs, fractured her face, choked her, put her on the floor and kicked her while your 5-year-old daughter listened through the wall. She's not. You grabbed a 5-year-old girl by the throat and slammed her against a wall. You left fingerprint bruises on a child's neck." Derek's mouth opened, closed. He had nothing. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get in your truck. You're going to drive out of Ashford tonight. You're going to keep driving until you're in a different state, and you're never coming back. You can't make me." "Your parole officer's phone number is in my contact list," Bull said. "So is your boss at Ashford Lumber. So is the email address for every parent at Pine Creek Elementary. I've got photographs of what you did to Megan. I've got photographs of what you did to Sophie. A 5-year-old child, Derek. And I've got a doctor willing to testify." Derek's face drained of color. "One phone call and you're back in county by morning. Assault on a minor this time. You know what they do to men who hurt kids in county? Do I need to explain it to you?" Derek's chest was heaving. He looked from Bull to Shadow to Diesel to the shapes of men standing outside in the dark. He was outnumbered, outmaneuvered, and for the first time in his adult life, he was standing in front of men who were not afraid of him. "I'll tell the cops you threatened me," Derek said, but his voice cracked on the last word. "Go ahead," Preacher said from the doorway. "Tell them 12 bikers showed up at your trailer. Tell them why. Tell them about the woman with broken ribs and the 5-year-old with handprints on her neck. See how much sympathy you get." Silence. Derek wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. His eyes were wet, not from sadness, from rage that had nowhere to go. "Fine," he whispered. "Say it louder," Bull said. "Fine, I'll leave. Tonight. You won't contact Megan. You won't contact Sophie. You won't search for them online. You won't drive through this town. You won't send anyone to look for them. You're going to disappear from their lives completely and permanently. If you don't, and I want you to hear me clearly on this, Derek, we will find you. Wherever you are, whatever state, whatever hole you crawl into, we will find you, and we will not have another conversation. We'll just act. Do you understand?" Derek stared at him. His whole body was shaking. "Do you understand?" "Yeah, I understand. Pack what you can carry. You've got 10 minutes." Derek moved through the destroyed trailer like a man in a nightmare, throwing clothes in a duffel, grabbing his wallet, his keys. His hands fumbled everything. He dropped his phone twice. He came back to the door, bag over his shoulder. He looked at Bull one last time. She'll come back to me. She always does. Bull stepped aside to let him pass. No, she won't. Derek walked down the steps, got into his truck. The engine turned over. He backed out of the driveway. At the end of Miller Road, his brake lights flashed once. Then the truck turned right and the taillights disappeared. Preacher stood beside Bull, both men watching the empty road. Think he'll stay gone? Preacher asked. Bull pulled out his phone, dialed Hank Ford. The retired state trooper answered on the second ring. Hank, Derek Wade, just left Ashford. White truck, dented front bumper. I need eyes on him. If he turns around, if he gets within 100 miles, I want to know. Consider it done. Bull hung up. He looked at the empty trailer one last time. Then he turned and walked through the dark toward the van. His phone buzzed. A text from Wire at the cabin. Sophie's awake. She won't sleep. She asked me to tell you to be careful. Those were her exact words. Tell Bull to be careful. Bull stared at the screen. He stood there in the dark for a long time. Then he typed back. Tell her it's done. Tell her she can sleep now. Nobody's coming. He put the phone in his pocket and climbed into the van. Diesel started the engine. They pulled away from Miller Road. Behind them, the yellow trailer sat empty, dark, silent. It would never hurt anyone again. Sophie didn't sleep that night, not really. She lay beside her mother in the bed at Haven House, eyes open, one hand on Megan's arm, the other wrapped around Biscuit. Every time the cabin made a sound, a creak in the floor, wind against a window, the fire popping in the other room, her whole body tensed. She'd hold her breath, count to 5, listen, then exhale when nothing came. At 2:14 a.m., she whispered, Mama, are you awake? Megan's eyes opened. She hadn't been sleeping either. Yeah, baby, I'm here. Do you think he's really gone? Bull said he's gone. But do you believe it? Megan turned her head on the pillow. It hurt to move, but she needed to see her daughter's face. I want to. I'm trying to. Trying isn't the same as believing. Megan reached out, touched Sophie's cheek. Her hand was trembling. No, it's not, but it's a start. Sophie pressed closer to her mother. Careful, always careful of the ribs. Mama, yeah, I'm not going to let anyone hurt you again, ever. Megan's throat closed. She pulled Sophie in with her good arm and held her. She couldn't speak. She just held her daughter in the dark and listened to the fire dying in the other room and tried to remember what safety felt like. At some point, they both slept. It was the first night in over a year that neither of them woke up to screaming. Grace found them in the morning. Tangled together under the blanket, Megan's arms still wrapped around Sophie, Sophie's face pressed against her mother's shoulder. Biscuit wedged between them. Grace stood in the doorway and let them sleep another hour. When Sophie finally woke up, she walked into the kitchen. Grace was making scrambled eggs. Ridge and Knox were outside. Sophie could see them through the window, standing by their motorcycles, drinking coffee, watching the road. Are they guarding us? Sophie asked. Grace turned from the stove. They're making sure you're safe. For how long? For as long as it takes. What if it takes forever? Grace set a plate of eggs in front of her, sat down across the small table. Sophie, look at me. Sophie looked. You don't have to be the grown-up anymore. You don't have to check the windows. You don't have to listen for trucks. You don't have to protect your mama. That's our job now. Your job is to eat these eggs and be 5 years old. Can you do that? Sophie stared at her. Something in her face shifted. Not all at once, just a crack. A tiny fissure in the wall she'd built around herself. I don't remember how to do that, she said. Grace reached across the table and took her hand. That's okay. We'll figure it out together. Sophie ate the eggs, All of them. Then she asked for more. 3 days later, Bull came back. He brought Wire and Doc Mason. Doc checked Megan again. Her ribs were healing, but slowly. The fracture in her cheekbone was stable. The bruises had turned that ugly green-yellow color that meant they were fading. Pain level? Doc asked. 5, maybe 6 when I moved too fast. Better than the 8 you were at 3 days ago. Keep taking the medication on schedule. Don't try to lift anything heavier than a coffee cup. I can't just lie here forever. You can lie there for 6 more weeks. Your ribs need time. Sophie sat in her chair by the bed, watching, always watching. Bull waited in the living room. When Doc came out, Bull asked the question he'd been carrying for 3 days. Is she going to be okay? For real? Physically, she'll recover. But Bull, she flinched when I reached for the stethoscope. I moved too fast and she threw her arms up. That's not a rib injury. That's conditioning. She's been hit so many times that any sudden movement triggers a defensive response. How do we fix that? You don't fix it. A therapist works with her over months, maybe years. Same with Sophie. Grace already said the same thing. Grace is right. These two need professional help, the kind you can't provide with good intentions. Bull nodded. I'm working on it. He went to the bedroom, knocked gently on the open door. Megan looked up. Hey, Bull said. Hey, Doc says I'm getting better. That's what he told me too. Bull, I need to ask you something. Go ahead. What happens now? I mean really, not the next few days, the next few months. I have no job, no money, no car. Sophie needs school. I can't stay in this cabin forever. Bull sat down in the chair that Sophie usually occupied. Sophie had gone to the kitchen to get juice. He could hear her talking to Grace. Something about whether bears like scrambled eggs. Here's what happens. We've got an apartment lined up for you in Millfield. 2 bedrooms, safe neighborhood, good school for Sophie, Brookside Elementary. Grace checked it out personally. The club is covering your first 3 months of rent. Megan shook her head. I can't take your money. It's not my money, it's the club's. And it's not charity, it's what we do. Why? Why do you do this? You don't even know me. Bull was quiet for a moment. He looked at his hands, those massive, scarred hands that had done terrible things and gentle things in equal measure. 14 years ago, I had a daughter. Her name was Grace, same as the woman in the other room. She was 3 when she died, leukemia. Megan's expression changed. The wariness dropped. Something else moved in. While she was sick, my wife and we needed help. We needed people, and people showed up. People we didn't know. People who had no reason to care. They brought food. They drove us to the hospital. They sat with Grace when we couldn't be in the room because we were falling apart in the hallway. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. He pressed them together. After she died, my marriage didn't survive. My wife moved to Oregon. I fell apart. I drank. I fought. I nearly killed myself, not on purpose, just by not caring whether I lived. The club saved me. Preacher found me in a ditch outside of Lexington. Literally. Pulled me out. Brought me in. Gave me a reason to get up in the morning. Bull, I'm telling you this because you asked why. The reason is simple. Somebody helped me when I couldn't help myself. Now I help people who can't help themselves. That's it. That's the whole reason. Megan's eyes filled. She reached for his hand. He let her take it. Her grip was weak, but her fingers held on. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me. Thank your daughter. She's the reason any of this happened. Sophie appeared in the doorway, juice box in one hand, biscuit in the other. She looked at Bull, then at her mother, then at their hands. Are you making Mama cry again? Good tears this time, baby, Megan said. She wiped her face with her free hand. Sophie evaluated this statement, decided it was acceptable. Grace wants to know if you want soup or a sandwich. Soup. She said you'd say that. She already made it. Sophie disappeared back into the kitchen. Bull stood. One more thing, Derek. Hank Ford's been tracking him. He drove to Nevada, Reno, got a room at a motel off the interstate. He hasn't moved in 2 days. He'll come back. If he does, we'll know long before he gets here, and we'll be waiting. You can't watch him forever. We don't have to. Men like Derek are cowards. He'll find someone else to control, some other woman in some other town. And I hate that. I hate it more than I can say. But right now my job is you and Sophie. That's my priority. What if he contacts me? New phone, new number. Grace is handling it today. Your old phone stays off, permanently. Megan nodded. Then she asked the question that had been sitting inside her for 3 days, the one she was most afraid to say out loud. Am I going to lose Sophie? Bull stopped. What? If this goes through the system, CPS, courts, whatever, they could say I failed to protect her, that I let it happen. They could take her away from me. Nobody's taking Sophie. You don't know that. The system doesn't care about context. They see a child with bruises living with a mother who didn't leave. That's failure to protect. I've seen it happen. My neighbor in Pine Creek, Jenny Miller, her husband beat her for 2 years. When she finally called the police, they took her kids. Not him, her, because she allowed them to be in a dangerous environment. Megan's voice was rising. Panic. The kind that comes from deep inside, from a place where the worst thing you can imagine is losing the one thing that keeps you alive. Megan, listen to me. They'll say I should have left sooner. They'll say I put her in danger. They'll say, Megan. She stopped, breathing hard, ribs screaming. Nobody is taking Sophie. Not CPS, not the courts, not anyone. Grace has a lawyer on call, a woman named Diane Torres. She handles cases like yours. She's good. She's done this 100 times. If anyone tries to challenge your custody, Diane shuts it down. But more importantly, we're not going through the system. Not yet. Not until you're ready. Not until you're strong. Not until you've got a job and an apartment and stability. And when that day comes, you won't be walking into a courtroom alone. You'll have Grace. You'll have Diane. You'll have me. And you'll have a 5-year-old daughter who walked barefoot through the rain to save your life. No judge on earth is going to take that child away from you. Megan stared at him. Her breathing slowed. Her hands unclenched. You really believe that? I know it. She leaned back against the pillow, closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. I'm so tired, Bull. I'm so tired of being afraid. I know. Rest. She slept. Bull walked out. Grace was in the kitchen with Sophie, teaching her how to make toast. Sophie was standing on a step stool, carefully pushing the lever down on the toaster with both hands. I did it, she announced. You did it, Grace confirmed. Bull watched from the doorway. A 5-year-old girl making toast in a safe kitchen, and it felt like the most important thing happening in the world. 4 days later, they moved. The apartment was in Millfield, second floor of a quiet building on Elm Street. 2 bedrooms, clean, bright, windows with locks that worked, a door with 3 deadbolts that Bull had installed himself. Diesel and Hammer carried the furniture, all donated. A couch from Grace's storage, a kitchen table from Wrench's garage, a dresser from Josie at the bar, and a bed for Sophie, a real bed, with a frame and a headboard and a mattress that wasn't on the floor. Sophie stood in the doorway of her new room and stared at the bed. That's mine? That's yours, Diesel said. I've never had a real bed before. Diesel's daughter Lily was the same age. She had a bed with a canopy and fairy lights and a pile of stuffed animals so high you could barely see the pillow. He thought about that, and then he stopped thinking about it because if he thought about it any longer, he was going to put his fist through the wall. Well, now you do, he said. Sophie climbed up, sat on the edge, bounced once. Her eyes went wide. It bounces. That's what beds do, kid. She bounced again, harder. A smile broke across her face. A real smile. The first one Diesel had seen from her. "Mama, come look! My bed bounces!" Megan appeared in the doorway, moving slowly, one hand on the wall, but moving. She saw Sophie bouncing on the bed with Biscuit in her hand and that smile on her face, and something inside Megan broke open in a way that had nothing to do with pain. She laughed. It caught her off guard. It hurt her ribs and she pressed her hand to her side, but she kept laughing. Sophie froze. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby. I'm perfect. Keep bouncing." Sophie bounced. Megan leaned against the doorframe and watched her daughter be a child. For the first time in a year, she let herself believe that maybe they were going to be okay. Grace helped Megan get her paperwork sorted. New ID, benefits application. Sophie enrolled at Brookside Elementary. Start date, next Monday. And then Grace made the call that changed everything. "Megan, there's a bakery in town called Flour and Sugar. The owner's name is Della. She's a friend. I told her about your situation, not details, just that you needed work and flexibility. She's got a position open, Monday through Friday, 7 to 2. You'd be home when Sophie gets out of school." "I've never worked in a bakery." "Can you learn?" "I can learn anything." "Good. Interviews tomorrow at 9. I'll watch Sophie." Megan sat on the couch in her new apartment. She looked at her hands, shaking. Not from Derek, from something else. Excitement, fear, hope, all mixed together. What if she sees my face, the bruises? Della's not going to ask about your bruises. Everyone asks. Della won't, trust me. Megan went to the interview. Della was 63, white hair, flour on her apron. She shook Megan's hand, looked her in the eyes, didn't glance at the fading bruises once and said, "Can you be here at 7 on Monday?" "Yes." "Good. I'll teach you everything you need to know. You're going to be fine." Megan walked out of that bakery and sat in Grace's car and cried for 10 minutes. Grace handed her tissues and said nothing. Some tears don't need words. They just need space. Monday morning, Sophie's first day at Brookside Elementary. Megan walked her to the front gate. Sophie wore new clothes, donated from a family in Grace's network. A blue sweater, jeans that fit, and shoes. Real shoes, sneakers with Velcro straps, white with pink stars. She'd put them on that morning and just stared at them. "They're so clean," she said. "They're yours," Megan told her. At the school gate, Sophie stopped. Other kids were streaming past, laughing, running, backpacks bouncing, normal children living normal lives. Sophie held Megan's hand so tight her fingers went white. "What if they ask where I came from?" "You tell them Millfield. That's where you live now." "What if they ask about my bruises?" "Your bruises are almost gone, baby. But if anyone asks, you say you fell, and then you change the subject. Ask them about their favorite color or what they like to draw." "What if I can't do the work? I missed a lot of school." "Your teacher knows. Her name is Mrs. Holloway. Grace talked to her. She's going to help you catch up." "What if nobody likes me?" Megan knelt down, slowly, carefully. Her ribs protested, but she needed to be eye level with her daughter. "Sophie Rose Dawson, you walked barefoot through the rain to save my life. You walked into a bar full of grown men and asked for help when every adult in your life had failed you. If you can do that, you can do anything, including making friends." Sophie's chin trembled. "I'm scared, Mama." "I know. That's okay. Remember what you told me. Trying is a start." Sophie let go of her mother's hand. She adjusted the straps on her backpack. She took a breath. "Okay. Okay." Sophie walked through the gate, 3 steps, 5, 10. Then she stopped, turned around. "Mama." "Yeah." "I love you." "I love you too, baby, more than anything in the world." Sophie turned and walked toward the building. Megan watched until her pink-starred sneakers disappeared through the front door. Then she stood, wiped her eyes, and walked to Flour and Sugar to start her first day of work. Sophie made a friend by lunchtime. Her name was Lily, brown hair, missing 2 front teeth. She talked non-stop and laughed at everything, including things that weren't funny. She sat next to Sophie at the lunch table and said, "Your sweater is the same color as my dad's motorcycle." "Your dad has a motorcycle?" "Yeah, he's in a club. They're called the Hells Angels. He says they help people." Sophie's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. "What's your dad's name?" "Diesel. Well, that's his club name. His real name is Dave, but everyone calls him Diesel." Sophie put down her fork. "Diesel carried my bed into my new apartment." Lily's eyes went wide. "You know my dad?" "He helped my mama." Lily grinned. The gap in her teeth made her look like a jack-o'-lantern. "That means we're basically sisters." "That's not how sisters work." "It is now. Come on, I'll show you the swings." Sophie followed Lily to the playground. They swung so high the chains went slack at the top. Sophie screamed, not from fear, from joy. It was a sound she hadn't made in so long that it startled her when it came out of her own mouth. That afternoon, Megan picked Sophie up from school. Sophie ran to her. "Mama, I made a friend. Her name is Lily. Her dad is Diesel." Megan stopped walking. "Diesel's daughter goes to your school?" "She sits next to me. She says we're sisters now." Megan looked up at the sky. She blinked fast several times. Then she looked back at Sophie and smiled. "Tell me everything." Sophie talked the entire walk home. About Lily, about Mrs. Holloway who had red glasses and smelled like vanilla, about a boy named Owen who collected rocks and named them, about the swings, about art class where she drew a picture of a bear that looked like Biscuit. Megan listened to every word. She held Sophie's hand and listened, and didn't interrupt, and filed every detail in a place inside her heart where the dark things used to live. That night, Sophie fell asleep at 8:15, in her own bed, in her own room, with Biscuit on the pillow beside her. She didn't wake up once. Megan stood in the doorway for a long time, watching her daughter sleep. No flinching, no whimpering, no small body curled into a protective ball. She pressed her back against the wall and slid down to the floor, put her head in her hands, and cried, quietly, so Sophie wouldn't wake up. Not sad tears, something else. Something that felt like a fist unclenching inside her chest. Her phone buzzed, the new one. Only 4 people had the number. It was Bull. How was her first day? Megan typed back through blurred vision. She made a friend, Diesel's daughter. 3 dots, then, "That's my girl." Megan stared at those 3 words. She read them again. "That's my girl." Like Sophie belonged to him. Not in a possessive way, not in the way Derek used my, in the other way. The way a person says it when they've chosen to care about someone else's child as if she were their own. She typed back, "Thank you for everything." His response came fast. "Don't thank me, just get some sleep. Both of you earned it." Megan plugged in her phone, stood up, walked to her own bedroom, climbed into her own bed. She lay in the dark and listened. Not for trucks, not for heavy boots, not for the front door slamming. She listened to silence, real silence, the kind that doesn't hide anything behind it. She closed her eyes, and for the first time in longer than she could remember, Megan Dawson fell asleep without being afraid of what morning would bring. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Sophie went to school every day, came home with stories about Lily and Owen and Mrs. Holloway. She drew pictures and taped them to the refrigerator. She learned to make toast by herself. She stopped flinching when people moved too quickly. Megan worked at Flour and Sugar. Della taught her how to knead dough, how to measure ingredients, how to frost cupcakes in a way that made people smile before they even tasted them. The other women who worked there, Hannah, Rosa, and Beth, treated her like she'd been there for years. They didn't ask about the bruises. They asked about Sophie, about what she liked for dinner, about whether she needed a ride when it rained. On the 21st day, Megan's phone rang at work, the new phone. She looked at the screen. Unknown number. She answered. Silence. Hello? Breathing. Heavy. Familiar. Megan's blood turned to ice. Megan. Derek's voice. Low. Slurred. I found your number. Her hands shook so hard she almost dropped the phone. Don't hang up. Listen to me. I miss you. I know I made mistakes. I want to. She hung up. Her legs gave out. She grabbed the counter. Della was beside her in 2 seconds. Megan, what happened? He found my number, Derek. He called. Della took the phone from Megan's hand. Sit down, right now, sit. Megan sat. Della made one call. 12 minutes later, Bull walked through the front door of Flour and Sugar. His face was made of stone. Give me the phone. Megan handed it over. Bull checked the call log, forwarded the number to Wire, looked at Megan. He didn't say where he was? No, he just said he found my number, that he missed me. Bull, how did he get this number? Only 4 people have it. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And this number's dead. Wire's setting up a new one within the hour. He's going to keep finding me. No, he's not. Bull's phone buzzed. Wire. He answered on speaker. Got it. The call came from a burner phone. Purchased in Reno, Nevada, 2 days ago. He's still out there. He must have gotten the number from someone at Pine Creek. Maybe a neighbor saw something, heard something, passed it along. Can you trace the burner? Already working on it. Give me 20 minutes. Bull hung up, looked at Megan. She was shaking. All the progress of 3 weeks, the job, the apartment, Sophie's school, the sleeping through the night, all of it trembling on the edge because of one phone call from a man who refused to let go. Megan, look at me. She looked. One phone call doesn't change anything. He's in Nevada. He's 2,000 miles away. He's got a burner phone and a grudge. That's all he's got. He doesn't know where you are. He doesn't know about Millfield. He doesn't know about the apartment or the school or this bakery. He called a number. That's all he did. That's how it starts. That's always how it starts. And that's where it ends. Today. Right now. 40 minutes later, Wire called back. He traced the burner to a convenience store in Reno. Pulled the security camera footage remotely. Again, don't ask how. Derek Wade buying a prepaid phone with cash. Alone. No indication he'd left Nevada. No travel records. No gas station charges along any route toward Kentucky. Bull called Hank Ford. Hank, Derek made contact. Phone call to Megan from a burner. He's still in Reno, but he's escalating. I'll tighten the watch. I've got a buddy with Reno PD. I'll have someone drive past his motel tonight, rattle his cage a little. Do it. And Bull, if he buys a bus ticket or rents a car heading east, I'll know within the hour. That night, Sophie noticed something was wrong. She came out of her room and found Megan sitting on the couch, staring at the wall, arms wrapped around herself. Mama, what happened? Nothing, baby. I'm just tired. Sophie climbed onto the couch, sat beside her mother, put her hand on Megan's arm. You're doing the thing. What thing? The thing where you say you're tired but you're really scared. Megan looked at her daughter, 5 years old, and she could read her mother like a book. Derek called me today. Sophie's body went still, every muscle like a switch flipped. Where is he? Far away, very far away. Bull handled it. We have a new phone number. He can't reach us. He always reaches us. Not this time. Sophie, I need you to hear me. Bull has people watching Derek. Grace has us protected. We have locks on the door. We have people who care about us. This isn't like before. Before, you said the same thing. Before, you said the police would help. Before, you said the neighbor would help. Nobody helped. This is different. How? Megan pulled her daughter close. Because this time we have the Hells Angels, and they don't break promises. Sophie was quiet. Then she said, I want to talk to Bull. It's late, baby. I want to talk to Bull. Megan picked up the new phone, dialed. It rang twice. Yeah, Bull's voice. Sophie wants to talk to you. Megan handed the phone to her daughter. Bull. Hey kid, what's going on? Derek called Mama. I know, I handled it. Is he coming? No. Bull. Yeah. If he comes, you'll stop him? Sophie, if Derek Wade sets 1 foot in the state of Kentucky, 12 men will be standing between him and your front door before he gets within 100 miles. That's not a figure of speech. That's a fact. Sophie was quiet for a long time. Bull waited. He didn't rush her. He didn't fill the silence. Okay, she said finally. Okay? Okay, I believe you. Good. Now go to sleep. You've got school tomorrow. Bull. Yeah. You're a good person. His throat locked up. He stood in his kitchen, alone, phone pressed to his ear, and couldn't speak for 3 full seconds. So are you, kid. Good night. Good night. Sophie handed the phone back to her mother. She climbed off the couch, walked to her room, got into her bed, pulled the covers up, held Biscuit against her chest, and slept. Derek didn't call again, not the next day, not the day after. The silence should have been comforting, but Megan knew better. Silence from Derek Wade was never peace. It was preparation. She told herself to stop thinking like that. Grace told her the same thing during their Thursday check-in. You're catastrophizing, Grace said. It's normal. Your brain has been wired for survival for over a year. It doesn't know how to turn off. It's not turning off because he's still out there. He's in Nevada, 2,000 miles away. 2,000 miles is a 2-day drive. Megan, I know, I'm working on it. Are you going to the therapist appointment I set up? Megan hesitated. Yeah, tomorrow, 10 o'clock. And Sophie? Thursday at 3, Dr. Linda Carr. Grace, she's 5. What is a therapist going to do with a 5-year-old? Play therapy, art therapy, talk, listen, give her tools. She needs this, Megan. You both do. Megan went to the therapist, a woman named Dr. Abigail Sutter, mid-40s, warm eyes, didn't take notes, didn't sit behind a desk. She sat in a chair across from Megan and said, Tell me whatever you want to tell me. There's no wrong answer. Megan stared at the floor. I don't know where to start. Start wherever you are right now. I'm scared, all the time. Every noise, every stranger. I check the locks 6 times before bed. Sophie caught me checking them and she said, Mama, you already checked. She's 5. She's monitoring me. That bothers you. Of course it bothers me. She should be coloring pictures and playing with dolls. Instead, she's watching me to make sure I'm not falling apart. She's been doing that for a year. Longer. She became my protector because I couldn't protect her. You were surviving. I was hiding. There's a difference. Is there? Megan looked up. What do you mean? Surviving in an abusive household isn't hiding. It's strategy. You kept yourself alive. You kept Sophie alive. The choices you made, staying quiet, not fighting back, those weren't weakness. They were calculated decisions to minimize harm. I let him hurt my daughter. The words came out like a confession, like she'd been holding them behind her teeth for months. He threw her against a wall. He grabbed her by the throat, and I didn't stop him because I was afraid if I fought back, he'd kill one of us. And he might have. So what? I should have fought anyway. A mother protects her child. That's the job. That's the only job. A mother who gets killed can't protect anyone. Megan went silent. Her jaw worked. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them. I hear his voice, she said quietly. At night, when the apartment is quiet, I hear him telling me to get up. I hear the sound of his boots on the floor. I feel the kick. Right here. She pressed her hand to her left side. The ribs are healing, but I still feel it. That's trauma. It lives in the body. When does it stop? It doesn't stop all at once. It gets quieter, gradually, with work. How much work? As much as it takes. Megan laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. Great. Megan, you walked into my office today. That's not nothing. A lot of people don't make it this far. They go back, or they shut down, or they self-medicate until they can't feel anything. You're here. You're employed. Your daughter is in school. You're building something. Give yourself credit for that. Megan wiped her eyes. Sophie would say I'm being dramatic. Sophie would probably say you're being brave, because that's what she learned from you. She didn't learn it from me. I taught her to be quiet. And then she chose not to be. Where do you think she got the courage to make that choice? Megan didn't answer, but something shifted in her face. A crack in the wall she'd built. Just a crack, but Dr. Sutter saw it. Same time next week? Yeah, same time next week. Sophie's first therapy appointment was different. Dr. Linda Carr had an office full of toys, art supplies, and a sandbox. Sophie walked in, scanned the room and said, "This doesn't look like a doctor's office." "It's not. It's a talking room." "What do we talk about?" "Whatever you want." Sophie sat down on the floor. She picked up a crayon, purple, drew a line across a blank piece of paper. "What are you drawing?" Dr. Carr asked. "A wall." "What's on the other side of the wall?" "The bad stuff." "What's on this side?" Sophie drew a smaller figure, stick legs, stick arms, a circle head. "Me." "Are you alone on this side?" Sophie thought about it. Then she drew another figure. Bigger, much bigger. A square body, thick arms. "Who's that?" "Bull." "Who's Bull?" "He's the one who came when I asked for help. He's the president of the Hells Angels. He has a scar on his face and his hands are really big, but he's gentle." "Is he on your side of the wall?" "Yeah. He stands between me and the bad stuff." Dr. Carr watched Sophie draw. She added more figures. A medium-sized one, Mama. A smaller one with something in her hand, Lily, holding a rock she'd probably gotten from Owen. Another big figure, Diesel. Then Grace. Then Josie from the bar. Then Preacher. "That's a lot of people on your side," Dr. Carr said. "I know. I didn't used to have any. How does it feel, having them?" Sophie put down the crayon. She looked at the drawing. All those stick figures standing on her side of the purple wall. "Heavy," she said. "Heavy? Because now I have to worry about all of them too." Dr. Carr leaned forward slightly. "You feel responsible for them? If something happened to any of them because of me, Sophie, nothing that happened to you or your mother was your fault. You know that, right? That's what everybody says. But you don't believe it?" Sophie picked up the purple crayon again. She drew another line, thicker, on top of the wall. "Derek hurt Mama because she burned dinner. He hurt me because I left my shoes by the door. Those were things we did. If we didn't do them, maybe he wouldn't have..." "Sophie, listen to me carefully. People who hurt other people don't need a reason. The burned dinner and the shoes, those were excuses. If it wasn't those things, it would have been something else. He chose to be violent. That was his choice, not yours, not your mama's." Sophie stared at the wall she'd drawn. Then she picked up a red crayon and drew something over it, jagged, angry. She scribbled so hard the crayon broke in her hand. "I hate him," she said. Her voice was quiet, but it shook with something enormous. "I hate him and I hope he never comes back, and I hope something bad happens to him, and I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I don't care. You can say whatever you want in this room. I want him to feel what Mama felt. I want him to feel what I felt. When he grabbed my neck and I couldn't breathe and everything went dark around the edges, and I thought I was going to die. I was 5 years old and I thought I was going to die." Dr. Carr's eyes glistened. She didn't look away. She didn't change the subject. "That must have been terrifying. I couldn't scream. I couldn't breathe. He held me up against the wall and his face was right in front of mine, and he said if I ever told anyone anything again, He'd make sure I never talked at all. And I believed him. I really believed he was going to kill me. But he didn't. No. Mama screamed. She threw a plate at him. He dropped me and went after her instead. That's how she got the broken ribs that time. The time before the last time. Your mama saved you. And then she got hurt because of me. Because of Derek, not because of you. Sophie put down the broken crayon. She was breathing hard, tears on her cheeks. But her jaw was set, stubborn, fierce. I'm never going to let anyone hurt us again. Never. When I grow up, I'm going to help people like us. Kids like me. Mamas like mine. I'm going to be the person who shows up. Dr. Carr smiled. I believe you. I mean it. I know you do. Sophie picked up a blue crayon. She drew something above the wall. A sky, a big circle sun. She drew it bright and hard, pressing the crayon into the paper until the wax gleamed. That's what it looks like now, she said, on our side of the wall. 2 months passed, then 3. Megan was promoted at Flour and Sugar. Della made her shift manager. Better pay. Keys to the shop. Della said, "You learn faster than anyone I've ever trained. I trust you with this place." Megan cried in the bathroom after, not because she was sad, because no one had trusted her with anything in years. Derek had taken her keys, her phone, her wallet, her identity, and now a woman she'd known for 3 months was handing her the keys to a bakery and saying, "I trust you." Sophie thrived at school. Mrs. Holloway reported that she was catching up fast. Reading above grade level. Math was harder, but she was working at it. She and Lily were inseparable. They ate lunch together every day. They made up a secret handshake that involved clapping, spinning, and bumping hips. Owen joined their group. He gave Sophie a rock, told her it was special. She kept it on her nightstand next to Biscuit. The bruises faded completely. On both of them. Megan's ribs healed. She could move without pain. She could laugh without wincing. She could pick Sophie up again, something she hadn't been able to do for months. The first time she lifted Sophie off the ground after the ribs healed, Sophie screamed with delight and wrapped her legs around Megan's waist and said, "Don't put me down. Don't ever put me down." "Baby, you're getting heavy." "I don't care. Carry me everywhere." "I'll carry you to the couch." "Deal." They collapsed onto the couch together, laughing, tangled up, Sophie's new sneakers kicking in the air, Biscuit bouncing off the cushion and landing on the floor. Normal. It felt normal, and normal felt like a miracle. Bull came by every other Saturday. He never stayed long, an hour, sometimes less. He'd check the locks, ask about work, ask about school. He'd bring something, groceries, a book Sophie had mentioned wanting, once a toolbox because the kitchen faucet was leaking, and he showed Sophie how to tighten it. "You fixed it," Sophie said, turning the handle. "No drip. You fixed it. I just told you which way to turn the wrench." "Same thing." "Not the same thing. You did the work." Sophie beamed. She kept the wrench on her nightstand next to Owen's rock and Biscuit. One Saturday in late November, Bull arrived and Megan opened the door before he knocked. Her face was different, tighter. He knew that face. "What happened?" "Come in." He stepped inside. Sophie was at Lily's house for a play date. The apartment was quiet. "Sit down," Megan said. "Just tell me." "I got a letter. Somebody slid it under the door last night. There's no stamp, no return address. It was hand-delivered." She handed him a folded piece of paper. Bull opened it. 4 words, block letters, black marker. "I know where you are." Bull's face didn't change, but his hand tightened on the paper until his knuckles cracked. "When did you find this?" "This morning, 6 a.m. I opened the front door to take the trash out and it was on the floor." "You didn't see anyone?" "No." "Security cameras in this building?" "1. In the lobby. Grace is getting the footage." Bull pulled out his phone, called Wire. "Someone delivered a note to Megan's apartment. Hand-delivered, slid under the door. I need you here in 20 minutes. Bring your equipment, pull the lobby camera footage, and run Derek's location right now. He hung up, looked at Megan. She was standing with her back against the kitchen counter, arms wrapped around herself. The old posture, the one she'd spent 3 months unlearning. It's him, she said. We don't know that. It's him, Bull. Who else would it be? That's what we're going to find out. Wire arrived in 18 minutes. He had his laptop, a portable hard drive, and a look on his face that said he'd already started working the problem in the car. He went straight to the building's management office, got access to the security system. The manager didn't ask questions when he saw the Hells Angels vest, and pulled the footage. They watched it on Wire's laptop in Megan's living room. 3:47 a.m. The lobby camera showed the front door opening. A figure walked in, hood up, dark clothing, average height, average build, kept their head down, knew exactly where the camera was. They know the camera angle, Wire said. See how they keep their face turned? That's not accidental. The figure walked to the stairs, disappeared from view. The camera didn't cover the second-floor hallway. 3 minutes later, the figure came back down, walked out the front door. Can you enhance the face? Bull asked. There is no face. They never looked up, not once. Build? 5'10", 5'11". Medium build. Could be Derek. Could be 1,000 other people. Car? Wire rewound. Switched to the exterior camera that covered the parking lot. A dark vehicle, make and model unclear, was parked across the street. The figure walked to it, got in, drove away. No plates visible. Dead end? Megan asked. Her voice was shaking. Not yet, Wire said. Give me a few hours. I'll pull traffic cameras from every intersection within a half mile. That car had to come from somewhere. Bull looked at Megan. Pack a bag. You and Sophie are staying at Haven House tonight. Bull, no. I can't keep running. Sophie just got settled. She has school. She has friends. If I pull her out now, 1 night, maybe 2, until we figure out who did this. And if it was Derek, then what? We run again? Move again? Start over again? How many times? As many times as it takes. That's not a life, Bull. That's hiding. That's exactly what I was doing with Derek. Hiding. Being small. Disappearing. I can't do that to Sophie again. Her voice cracked. Tears spilled down her face. She wiped them angrily. I am so tired of being afraid. I am so tired of every good thing getting poisoned by that man. Sophie made friends. I got a promotion. We were sleeping through the night. We were laughing again. And now a piece of paper under a door takes all of it away? It doesn't take anything away. It already has. Look at me. She held out her hands, trembling. I'm right back where I started, shaking, crying, waiting for him to show up. How is this any different from Pine Creek? Because you're not alone this time. Being not alone doesn't fix the fact that he's out there. It doesn't fix the fact that he found me. It doesn't... Megan. Bull's voice was firm, not loud. Firm. Sit down. She sat, not because she wanted to, because her legs gave out. Bull sat across from her. You're right, running isn't a life. And I'm not asking you to run. I'm asking you to be safe for 1 night while we work. That's not running, that's strategy. The same strategy that got you and Sophie out of Pine Creek alive. Megan closed her eyes. I can't tell Sophie. She just stopped having nightmares. Then we don't tell her. We tell her it's a sleepover at Grace's cabin. She likes Grace. She likes the cabin. She'll know. She always knows. Maybe, but let her be 5 for 1 more night. Let us handle this. Megan opened her eyes, looked at him. You really think you can find out who did this? Wire is the best at what he does. If there's a trail, he'll find it. And if there's no trail, then we increase security. We change the locks. We put people on your building around the clock. And we wait for whoever it is to make another move. That sounds like a siege. It sounds like protection. Megan looked at the piece of paper still sitting on the coffee table. 4 words that had detonated her entire sense of safety. She wanted to burn it. She wanted to throw up. She wanted to scream. Instead, she said, "Okay, one night." Wire worked through the night. Traffic cameras, gas station footage, ATM cameras. He tracked the dark vehicle from Megan Street to Route 12, then east toward the interstate. He lost it at the highway on-ramp. The camera there was broken and had been for 6 months. But he found something else. A gas station camera 4 miles from Megan's apartment caught the vehicle pulling in at 3:12 a.m. The driver got out to use the pump. Wire enhanced the image. Grain, static, but clear enough. It wasn't Derek Wade. It was a woman. Bull stared at the screen. "Who the hell is that?" Wire ran the plate, barely visible but enough for a partial match. Cross-referenced with known associates. Derek's social media before it was deleted. Phone records. He had an answer by dawn. Her name is Tammy Salt, 31, lives in Ashford. She's Derek's sister. Bull closed his eyes, exhaled slowly through his nose. Derek's sister. Half-sister. Same father, different mothers. She lives 20 minutes from Pine Creek. She's been in contact with Derek. I pulled phone records. They've talked 14 times in the last month. The calls got more frequent after Derek moved to Nevada. He sent his sister to deliver the note. That's what it looks like. He didn't come himself because he knew we'd be watching for him. Exactly. Bull sat in his kitchen, 5:47 a.m., coffee getting cold. He thought about Megan, about Sophie, about a 5-year-old girl who had just started sleeping through the night, who had just started laughing on the swings, who kept a rock and a wrench and a one-eyed bear on her nightstand. He thought about the promise he'd made. Nobody's going to hurt you again. He picked up his phone, called Shadow. Yeah, Shadow's voice, alert. He never sounded like he'd been sleeping. Tammy Salt, Ashford, Derek Wade's half-sister. She delivered a note to Megan's apartment last night. I know the name. She works at the gas station on Route 9. I need you to have a conversation with her. What kind of conversation? The kind where she understands that what she did was a mistake. The kind where she calls Derek and tells him his little strategy failed. And the kind where she never comes within 50 miles of Megan or Sophie again. When? Today. Done. Bull hung up. He made one more call. Hank Ford. Hank, Derek Wade is using his half-sister, Tammy Salt, to track Megan. He's running this from Nevada. He's not stupid enough to come himself, so he's sending proxies. Hank's voice came back hard. That changes things. Restraining order won't help if he's using other people. I know. You want to go legal, or you want to handle it? Both. Grace's lawyer is filing for a protective order today. Full no contact. That covers Derek and any agent acting on his behalf, Tammy included. And the handling part? Shadow's paying Tammy a visit, and I want Derek to get a message from you through your Reno contact. Make it clear that using other people to terrorize a woman and her 5-year-old daughter is not going to be treated differently than doing it himself. If he sends anyone else, a friend, a cousin, a stranger, anyone, we will respond to him directly. Not the proxy, him. You sure about that? I've never been more sure about anything. Consider it done. Shadow visited Tammy Salt at 2:15 that afternoon. The conversation lasted 6 minutes. Nobody heard what was said, but Tammy called Derek within the hour, and she was crying. The phone call lasted 4 minutes. Derek didn't call back. At 4:30, Hank Ford's contact in Reno knocked on Derek's motel room door. 2 men, both retired law enforcement, both large. The conversation lasted 8 minutes. Nobody raised a voice. Nobody needed to. At 5 o'clock, Wire intercepted a text from Derek's burner phone to Tammy's number. Don't go back there. It's over. I'm done. Wire forwarded it to Bull. Bull read it, then he drove to Haven House. Megan and Sophie were in the kitchen. Grace had taught Sophie how to make grilled cheese. She was standing on the step stool, pressing the sandwich down with a spatula, tongue poking out the corner of her mouth in concentration. "Bull," she waved the spatula, "I'm cooking." "I can see that." Megan stood by the counter. Her eyes asked the question before her mouth did. "It wasn't Derek," Bull said. "It was his half-sister, Tammy Salt. She lives in Ashford. Derek put her up to it." Megan's face tightened. "His sister?" "She won't be coming back. She's been spoken to. So has Derek. His exact words to her in a text an hour ago were, 'It's over. I'm done.' And you believe him?" "I believe that he now understands the consequences of continuing, for himself and for anyone he involves." Grace's lawyer filed a protective order today. It covers Derek, Tammy, and any third party acting on his behalf. Megan leaned against the counter. She pressed both hands flat on the surface, steadying herself. "So we go home?" "You go home. And this is really over?" Bull looked at her. "I can't promise you that Derek Wade will never think about you again. I can't promise he'll never feel the urge to reach out. But I can promise you that every avenue he tries will be closed. Every person he sends will be turned back. Every phone call will go nowhere. And if he ever decides to come himself, he will be met by men who have been waiting for exactly that." Sophie flipped the grilled cheese. It was perfectly golden. She held it up on the spatula like a trophy. "Look, I didn't burn it." "That's better than I can do," Bull said. Sophie grinned. "You want half?" "Yeah, kid, I want half." She cut the sandwich down the middle with great concentration and plated both halves. She handed one to Bull. He took a bite. "Best grilled cheese I've ever had." "Really?" "Really." Sophie took a bite of her half, chewed, thought about it. "It needs more butter," she said. Bull laughed, a real laugh, the kind that came from somewhere deep. Megan watched him. She watched this massive, scarred, battle-hardened man sit at a kitchen table, eating a grilled cheese made by her 5-year-old daughter, and she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Not the fragile, temporary, conditional safety she'd known with Derek. Not the safety of hiding. The real kind. The kind that lets you exhale. The kind that lets you close your eyes without checking the locks first. She looked at Sophie, who was already planning her next sandwich. She looked at Bull, who was eating every crumb. She looked at Grace, who stood in the doorway with a dish towel over her shoulder and a knowing smile on her face. Megan closed her eyes, opened them. The world was still there, still safe, still whole. She picked up her daughter's half-eaten sandwich and took a bite. "Hey," Sophie protested, "that's mine." "Tax," Megan said. "I'm the mama. I get a bite." "Bull, she stole my sandwich." "I didn't see anything," Bull said. Sophie looked at him in mock outrage. Then she burst out laughing. Megan laughed too. Bull shook his head and finished his half. They went home that night. Megan checked the locks, twice, not 6 times, twice. She called it progress. Christmas came to Millfield 3 weeks later. Sophie woke up at 5:47 a.m. and ran into Megan's room. "Mama, it's Christmas, wake up." Megan opened one eye. "Baby, the sun isn't even up." "Santa doesn't care about the sun, come on." Megan let herself be pulled out of bed. Her ribs didn't hurt anymore, hadn't for weeks. She could move freely, lift Sophie, laugh without wincing. Her body had healed. The inside was still working on it, but mornings like this helped. Sophie stopped in the living room, stared. Under the small tree, the one they'd decorated together with paper snowflakes and popcorn strings, were presents. A dozen of them, wrapped in red and green paper, bows on top. "Mama, Santa came." "He did. But how did he know where we live? We just moved." Megan knelt beside her. "Santa always knows where to find kids who deserve it." Sophie picked up the first present, tore the paper. A set of watercolor paints. Professional grade. Her mouth dropped open. These are the real ones, like real artists use. Keep going. More presents. Books. A warm winter coat with a fur-lined hood. New sneakers, purple this time. A sketch pad. Colored pencils. And at the bottom, wrapped in tissue paper, a stuffed bear. Brown. Soft. Both eyes intact. A tag attached to its paw that read, "For Biscuit, because everyone needs a brother. D." Sophie held the bear against her chest. Diesel got this. I think so. Biscuit's going to love him, she paused. His name is Wrench, because Bull's friend Wrench let us stay at his cabin. And Wrench means fixing things. And Biscuit needed fixing. Megan pulled her daughter into her lap. Sophie was getting heavier, taller, growing fast, but she still fit perfectly right there. Merry Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas, Mama. There was a knock at the door at 10 a.m. Megan opened it. Bull stood there, Preacher and Diesel behind him. They were carrying bags. Merry Christmas, Bull said. You already gave her presents. Those were from Santa. These are from us. They came inside. More gifts. A gift card to the grocery store. Another to a clothing shop. A thick envelope that Bull handed to Megan separately. She opened it. Inside was a check. She looked at the amount, looked at Bull. Her eyes went wide. Bull, I can't accept this. It's from the club. Every member contributed. It's for Sophie's college fund. She's 5. She won't always be. Megan stared at the check. Her chin trembled. She pressed the envelope against her chest. You people are going to make me cry on Christmas. That's kind of the plan, Diesel said. Sophie ran to Preacher, hugged his leg. Preacher looked down at her. His face did something it rarely did. It softened. Merry Christmas, little one. Merry Christmas, Preacher. Do you want to see my paints? I'd like that very much. Sophie dragged him to the kitchen table where she'd already spread out the watercolors. She painted him a picture. It was a motorcycle, purple, with wings. That's yours, she told him. Preacher held the wet painting with hands that had held weapons, held dying men, held the weight of 50 years of hard living. He looked at that purple motorcycle with wings painted by a 5-year-old girl, and his throat worked once. I'm going to frame this, he said. Really? Really, it's going right over my mantle. Sophie beamed. Then she painted one for Diesel, and one for Bull. Bull's was a bear, standing next to a very small girl, both smiling. That's us, she said. Bull held the painting. He didn't speak for a long moment. Yeah, kid, that's us. They stayed for 2 hours. Hot chocolate, the cookies Sophie and Megan had baked the night before, lopsided sugar cookies with too much frosting, which meant they were perfect. Laughter filled the apartment in a way that pushed out every shadow that had ever lived there. When they left, Sophie stood at the window, watching the motorcycles pull away through the falling snow. Mama, yeah, baby, those are good men. The best. I'm glad I found them. Me too, Sophie. Me too. Derek Wade never came back. Hank Ford's network tracked him from Nevada to Arizona to New Mexico. Construction jobs, short stays, moving every few months. He drank more, worked less. His half-sister Tammy cut off contact after Shadow's visit. His phone records showed fewer and fewer calls until they stopped altogether. He tried one last thing, 8 months after Sophie walked into the iron pit. A Facebook account under a fake name sent Sophie's school a message asking for information about a student named Sophie Dawson. Wire intercepted it before the school ever saw it, traced it to Derek. Within 24 hours, 3 men visited Derek at a construction site in Albuquerque. The conversation was brief. Derek quit his job the next day and moved again. This time, he didn't try to reach out. He vanished. Not the way people vanish in stories, the way they vanish in real life. Slowly, quietly, swallowed by their own emptiness. Sophie never asked about him again. Years pass the way they do when life finally starts moving forward instead of standing still. Sophie turned 7, then 9, then 12. She played soccer, made honor roll. She and Lily remained best friends, inseparable, finishing each other's sentences, sleeping over at each other's houses every other weekend. Owen was still in the picture too, still collecting rocks, still naming them. Sophie kept every rock he gave her on her shelf next to Biscuit and Wrench. Megan took over Flour and Sugar when Della retired. The bakery was hers. She renamed it Nothing. Kept Della's name on the sign out of respect. She hired 2 more staff, expanded the menu. The town knew her now, not as the woman who'd been beaten, not as the woman who'd been rescued, as Megan, the bakery lady, Sophie's mom, the one who made the cinnamon rolls that sold out by 9 a.m. She still saw Dr. Sutter, every other week now instead of every week. The nightmares had mostly stopped. She still checked the locks before bed, but only once. She called that victory. Bull came by less frequently as the years passed. Not because he cared less, because he didn't need to. His work was done. Megan was strong. Sophie was thriving. The infrastructure of safety he'd built around them, the network of people, the watchful eyes, the standing promise, was still there. It just didn't need daily maintenance anymore. But he always came for the big moments. He was there for Sophie's 8th birthday, brought her a bicycle. She rode it up and down Elm Street while he stood on the sidewalk and watched. He was there when Sophie scored her first soccer goal at age 10. She looked up into the stands, found his face, pointed at him. He pointed back. He was there when Megan had a panic attack at the bakery, her first in over a year, triggered by a customer who slammed his fist on the counter because his order was wrong. Bull drove 40 minutes to sit with her in the back room until her hands stopped shaking. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. He was there. That was enough. Sophie turned 18, graduation day. She walked across the stage in her cap and gown. The auditorium was full. Megan sat in the 3rd row, crying before Sophie's name was even called. In the front row sat Bull, 64 now, more gray in his beard than brown. The scars still ran from his ear to his jaw. He still wore the vest, still rode, still president of the Hells Angels. Beside him sat Preacher, 87, needed a cane now, still had that gravel voice, still read scripture every morning. Diesel sat on Bull's other side. Lily was graduating too, same class as Sophie. He was crying openly and didn't care who saw. When Sophie's name was called, she walked across the stage, took her diploma, and looked into the audience. She found Bull, held up the diploma. He nodded once. That was all. It was enough. After the ceremony, Sophie found him in the parking lot. She was still in her cap and gown. She walked up to him and hugged him, hard, no hesitation, the way she'd hugged him that first day in the bar when she was 5 and soaking wet and barefoot. "I'm going to college," she said. "I heard. Full scholarship, criminal justice, minor in social work. You're going to change the world, kid." "I'm going to try." Bull pulled the framed photo from inside his vest, the one he'd taken from the yellow trailer 13 years ago. Megan and Sophie at the county fair, cotton candy on Sophie's face. "I've been carrying this since the day we got you out," he said. "I think it's time you had it." Sophie took the photo, looked at it, touched the glass with her fingertip. "I remember this day. I was 3. Before everything. Before everything." She looked up at him. "You kept this all these years. Reminded me why we do what we do." Sophie held the photo against her chest. "Thank you, Bull. Not just for this, for everything, for showing up that day, for keeping your promise. You're the one who made it happen, Sophie. You walked through that door, and you answered. Always." Sophie was 23 when everything came full circle. She sat in her office at a nonprofit called Second Dawn, case manager. Her desk had a computer, a phone, and 3 framed photos. One of her and Megan at the bakery, one of her, Lily, and Owen at their high school graduation, and one of her, Megan, and Bull, taken the day she turned 18, all three smiling. There was a knock on her door. "Come in." A woman walked in, mid-30s, brown hair, bruises on her face, split lip. She held the hand of a little boy, 5 years old, blonde hair, wide, scared eyes, bruises on his arms. Sophie stood. The woman sat down slowly. The boy climbed into her lap. "I don't know where else to go." Her voice shook. "The police said without proof, there's nothing they can do. My family won't help. My landlord won't get involved. I've tried everything." Sophie looked at the boy. He stared back, green eyes, terrified, holding a stuffed dinosaur with a torn tail. She knew that look. She'd worn it. She'd lived it. She'd survived it. "What's your name?" Sophie asked the boy. "Liam," he whispered. "What's your dinosaur's name?" "Rex." "That's a great name. Liam, can you do me a favor? Can you sit right there in that chair and hold Rex really tight while I talk to your mom?" Liam nodded, climbed off his mother's lap, sat in the chair, held Rex against his chest. Sophie looked at the woman. "What's your name?" "Katie." "Katie, I need you to listen to me. You came to the right place. We're going to help you, both of you. Tonight. Right now." "How can you be so sure?" Sophie glanced at the photo on her wall. Bull, Megan, herself, smiling. "Because someone did the same thing for me once. I was 5 years old. I was barefoot. I was terrified. And I walked into a room full of strangers and asked for help. And they answered. They didn't ask questions. They didn't hesitate. They showed up. And they saved my life." Katie's eyes filled with tears. "Who were they?" "The best men I've ever known." Sophie picked up her phone, dialed the number she knew by heart. It rang 3 times. "Yeah," Bull's voice, 69 now, still writing, still answering. "It's Sophie. I need a favor." "Talk to me." 5-year-old boy and his mom, same story, they need help. Bull was quiet for 1 second. She could hear him breathing, could hear the creak of his leather vest as he stood up. "We're on our way." Sophie hung up, looked at Katie, then at Liam. The boy was watching her with those wide green eyes, the dinosaur pressed tight against his little chest. "Are you going to help us?" he asked. Sophie came around the desk. She knelt down so her eyes were level with his, the same way Bull had knelt in front of her 18 years ago in a roadside bar while rain hammered the roof and her bare feet bled on the floor. "Yes," she said, "I am. And I'm going to tell you something I want you to remember. What you did, coming here with your mom, being brave, walking through that door, that's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And you did it. You hear me? You already did the hardest part." Liam's chin trembled. "I was really scared." "I know. I was too once. A long time ago." "What happened?" "Someone helped me. And now I'm going to help you. That's how it works. Someone shows up for you, and then one day, you show up for someone else." Liam looked at his dinosaur, then back at Sophie. "Promise?" "Promise." Sophie stood. She looked at the photo on her wall one more time. Bull's face, that scar, those steady eyes. The man who knelt on a bar floor and told a barefoot 5-year-old girl that she'd come to the right place. She grabbed her keys. She had work to do. Because 18 years ago, a 5-year-old girl learned the most important lesson of her life. When someone asks for help, you answer. Every single time, no exceptions, no hesitation, you answer. And you don't stop answering until the world runs out of people who need it. And the world never runs out.